How's it going, guys? In this video, I wanted to try something a little bit different than what I'm usually doing. I want to start moving away from just sound design videos and start going towards more of like course videos or studies on mixing and mastering. I'm starting to get a little sick, I think. So hopefully my voice isn't too bad in this. But I started on Polaris and I've gotten it maybe just about to where I'd usually start thinking about a video. But I wanted to go through this and see if we can figure out how to actually properly master this. I can always get it to this point where it sounds pretty close, it sounds pretty professional, but it's just not quite there. And it's that last 10% of how you turn something into something that just feels amazing that I'm still trying to work out. So I'll play what I have and then we'll just go through this, try to figure out how to master it right, how to mix it. And you guys can see kind of my thought process as I'm figuring out how to get these sounds a little bit closer. So I'll just play a little bit through this and then we can start going. Okay, so getting a little bit closer. So I'm just going to go through kind of how I would think about getting this a little bit closer. One of the first things that I would do is resample the track. So I have this resample track here. I'm just going to record starting at the intro here where these first plucks come in, and then we can just start to try and master this a little bit more. So I'm seeing that we are looking pretty close to deadmau5's track. Our pluck shape is looking pretty similar. One thing to note, this intro pad I haven't really worked on too much at all. I think it's probably a preset that he used, but the first thing that I'm noticing here are these delayed hits on his track. And if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see how there are these kind of mirror of these plucks. We got one here, 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 here. So it's kind of like a ping pong delay. That's what it kind of looks like. And on ours, I'm not really seeing that. We got a little bit here, but it kind of gets lost in the pad. And I think that just means that our plucks aren't quite hitting the same level that his are, or our delay is not as strong as his. So at this point, when I'm this close to something, I start to reference frequency ranges specifically. And I have this kind of reference chain on my master as well as the actual track. And each of these EQs is set up a little bit differently for each of the frequency ranges. So I kind of have like a low, low mid, high mid. I have a high one. And then I also just started using another one that is kind of like the full mids. And I have all of these key tracked. So you can see I have all these key tracked And the same keys are on the reference EQs. So at a push of a key, I can solo like the low mids, and we can go through that, or the lows or the highs. So I'm actually going to start with the low mids, and I'm going to play his track, and we'll see if we can get it a little bit closer. So immediately I'm hearing that the low reverb in his track is a lot stronger. Ours is a little bit too thin. So I'm going to go into our Chord Pluck Serum here. And I'll try to remember to make this bigger for you guys. So this sound is pretty simple. It's just a saw wave with 8 voices. Got the envelope 2 on the cutoff. A little bit of compression. Then here's our delay and reverb. And then I have this mod, which is actually on the mod amount. This macro is affecting the mod amounts. And I did that because if you hear in the actual track, this first pluck, when it first comes in, is a little bit higher. It's a little bit more intense. Then it goes a little bit lower. Let's take a look at our Chord Pluck. And I'm going to turn this low cut down to see if we can get some more of that low reverb. So I don't think I want to actually use the delay in Serum. I think what I'm going to do is just use a Ableton delay. And that'll give us a stronger delayed signal. And turn this to ping pong. Turn our feedback up. So now that we have that delay after our reverb, I want to turn this reverb down a touch. And I'm also going to mute our mids for a second. I have this MSED also key tracked. So the mids are muted. And I'm going to turn our reference span on. So I'm hearing their delays, his delays, a lot stronger than ours still. I'm also hearing that his plucks sounds a little bit softer than ours. And I'm going to just mute the sides now. So a few things here. See if we can make it a little bit softer with the attack. So I'm going to push this up a touch. And then his just sound like way tighter than ours. So maybe we should turn our cutoff envelope to a little bit lower. And then I want to see if we can get some of that tightness with this compression. Maybe if I decrease the threshold a little bit. So I'm going to turn our sides back on. And I think the highs of our reverb is a little bit too open. If you hear his, you can hear that ours is kind of washing over in the higher frequencies of that reverb. So I think I want to turn our high cut up just a touch. Maybe our sides down a touch as well. And it's crazy how just these slight adjustments mean so much when you try to create a polished sound. This is like the next level of ear training that I think it's going to take to really get to that next level. So with all the EQs off, so one thing that I am noticing, looks like our amplitude is looking pretty good compared to his. Let's see how our frequencies are matching up. So you can see the lows of our plucks are pretty intense. So I'm thinking we're going to have some sort of a low cut just slightly so we can match up a little bit better. So I have this Pro Q, already have a low cut here. Maybe if I turn the slope up a touch. So I'm going to increase this. So we're cutting into that kind of 60 hertz range. So that's looking a little bit closer. Let's reference the high mids. So his are just really smacking a little bit higher. So we're going to have to get some more of those high frequencies in here. We could increase our mod amounts. And I think what I'm going to do, go back to our mod automation, turn this down slightly. I think maybe we should kind of increase this slope a touch. think actually I'm going to turn this back down a little bit and then just increase our cutoff a touch. So we're getting a little bit of a thicker pluck. Increase the decay. Okay, I think I'm liking that a little bit better. So let's hear how it comes in. Sweet. Okay, so I think that pluck is pretty spot on now. And this pluck is really important because what deadmau5 did in this track, he has kind of 3 sounds that are pretty much playing the exact same chord progression to build up that massive synth stack. But these short plucks are going to be taking up the majority of the low ends. And then when our big saw stabs come in, they're more of a kind of high mid to high range sound. But for now, let's go on to these kind of percussion plucks. So I'm going to reference the high mids again. So his reverb just sounds way more massive. And I wonder what that is. It's some sort of just really snappy percussion sound. So I had tried to do it in the noise oscillator with this like hats here. But I think what I might do is add an extra instrument on top of this. So I'm actually going to group this Serum, go into the chains, create a chain, and let's see if we can find some sort of percussion sound that will be similar. This one might work. We'll have to cut this down. Sounds a little bit better. So if we just solo this. Yeah, I think that'll be a good attack. And now we're going to have to do some different things with a reverb and delay. So I'm actually going to turn down a little bit of this hat. Basically, this is just playing the same chord. I just have a very short attack on the cutoff. Might even roll off some of the highs on this. So let's see if we can get a massive reverb on this. Maybe I'll use hybrid reverb. Kind of filter it so it's just in that high range. And if I remember, I think it's more of a mono reverb. Turn on the side solo. So you can hear his reverb is really kind of smacking with this harmonic here. So let's see if we can kind of emphasize that 8K range. So I think we might need to take out some of the lows in this percussion hit. Sounds like his is a little bit more high pass. And I think we need to roll off kind of the very highs of this reverb. And if you hear his, it sounds like there's this very immediate delay that hits on those top hits. So I want to see if we can recreate that. And I think I'll bring back a little bit of stereo. Like a very short feedback. We'll just have this percussion hit do the majority of that percussion sound. Bring back a touch of these highs, maybe resonant. It's a little closer. So now what I want to do is resample this just to make sure our attacks are looking pretty similar. And if you hear closely, you can hear that the short plucks are opening up a touch. And you can tell by those delayed hits, they're a lot more open now. So this is a good subtle way of building things that deadmau5 is just really good at. Just like a subtle opening up of these plucks before we get to the big saw stabs. So what we could do, we can automate our mod amounts of touch. Just have it coming up a little bit. A little bit more. So I think the next thing that I want to do is actually automate the cutoff itself. So I've started to do macros for my cutoff automation, just so if I want to change this cutoff, I'm able to. So let's see if we can automate this a touch up as well. So we're not quite getting the proper opening up sound. His sound brighter, but they still sound very plucky. So that leads me to believe it's less of a cutoff kind of increase, and it's more of that mod amount itself. Because this mod amount is increasing the amount that our envelope is working on the cutoff. So if we turn this up, it means the pluck's going to get more intense, more high frequencies. So I think that's a little bit more close to what it actually is. I still just feel like our reverb is a little bit too heavy. And for our top plucks, I want to go back to some limiting. So we got that huge peak there. And let's resample this while I'm affecting this just to see the changes. All right, so I think we're looking a little bit closer there. The one thing I'm noticing is you can see the sustained audio that is still existing in his track. We're cutting off right here. And I think that has to do with the sub. See what we look like in the span. Okay. So it looks like our sub is actually too intense. So let's fix that quickly here. Gonna go to our bass. Actually, it's this one. Just call this like intro sub. And this was actually built from the saw stab. Got a mess of EQ on this. Just gonna check out the automation that we have here. Can delete this guy. So I don't like having a bunch of EQ like this because I just can't see deadmau5 ever doing something like this. So I think maybe we could accomplish this by limiting it. See what happens. I'll have our span up. Turn this to 1-to-1 real quick. We're still going to need a little bit of a low cut here, so you can see how that sub fundamental kind of just tails away a little bit too soon. So the way I was handling the sustains of these sounds was with this like delayed envelope here, and I have it on the cutoff, so it was getting a little darker, but I also put it on this EQ, which is kind of like a high pass. So I think if I turn this down a touch, so it's not high passing as intensely, let's see what happens to this sub fundamental. So I'm going to increase the time on this just a touch. Even more. Getting closer. I think I'm good with that for now. So what I was hearing in the sustain part, if you listen to deadmau5's track, you can actually hear some saws, like a saw synth coming in. What I think that is actually the saw stabs just filtered down. So if we take our saw stabs here, bring them back a touch. So right now we're going to have this envelope 2 on here. This macro is on the cutoff. So I'm going to do a similar thing that we did for these short plucks. I'm going to assign this macro 2 on our envelope that's on the cutoff. So macro 2's there. So fully up means we're getting all of this envelope on this filter. So what I'm going to do is turn this down, so we're not getting any of that pluck sound here, but we should just be getting a sustain sound. So let's just see. And then what I want to do is also increase our macro on the cutoff, so we're getting a little bit more of those high frequencies. And I'm going to break this clip here because it's sustained until that hit. And then what we can do, you can hear in deadmau5's that it actually, the filter kind of moves up a touch, building into that first big hit. So I'm also going to take these lows away because it sounds more high passed. And I think what we're going to have to do as well, because I have this delayed thing going on here on this cutoff, so I think we'll have to assign another macro to that one. So envelope 3 on the cutoff, turn this to macro 3. So all the way up again, it's going to do the full kind of cycle of this mod amount. So if you turn this down, it means it's not going to fall away. So we'll have more of that sustained sound. And then from here, we'll just have to kind of adjust the settings of all those macros. I'm going to name this cutoff. Select mod and tail off, so it's a little bit easier. So for our cutoff, I'm going to have this down so we're not getting it at the beginning. And I think I'll actually put a utility here. So at the end of our chain. So we're getting a little bit of a gradual increase. Actually have this go down a touch. Let's see how our build-up is sounding. All right, so we're getting a little bit closer. I think what I want to do, just resample this quickly to see what our sustain looks like. So it looks like we're a little loud here. Let's check out our frequencies. Yeah, so we're gonna have to high pass these saws. So I guess we'll go back to automating this guy. Have our frequencies up. as I'm adjusting this. So I think we might need a little bit of a steeper slope. And bring that down a touch. All right, so a little bit closer there. And I noticed that our sub is kind of cutting off too quickly. Let's see how long it sustains for. So we're gonna have to have our sub tailing off a little bit sooner there. So I think what's happening is the upper part of that sub is getting filtered down. Could we do this with an EQ? I want to see if we can do this all in the synth without this auto filter. Turn this up a touch. Don't need this envelope to be too hard. This was at like 117, so. All right. Nice, so we're getting that sub to tail off a bit. It's a little too early in how it cuts off again. So we have this envelope again here. Maybe just turn that up so it's not cutting off those frequencies too soon. And again, with this kind of delayed high pass, I'm going to bring it down a touch. Okay, cool. So just want to adjust this a slight amount to turn this cutoff down so it's not building too hard. So we're going to have to adjust our mod amounts in the second break as well. I just want to see what the short plucks are sounding like. So it sounds like maybe they are just still open there, which would be easier for us. All right, sweet. So I think we got a good foundation. We're looking closer on all those plucks. We got the right kind of build up going, the right pluck shapes. So in the next video, I'll just keep going on this kind of mixing and mastering study. I still have to get the effects in, so maybe we can work on that. But yeah, we'll probably tackle these saw stabs just to make sure they're sounding perfect. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll get back into this in the next video.